Fa la 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 la. Welcome to today's
Wow.
episode
Wow,
of
it
Total Health
blasted
Live.
me.
Yeah, I'm Dr. Christopher Vogelmann, who obviously has a little bit of time on his hands playing with Canva. It's better than having an alcohol problem. And welcome to this week's edition of Total Health Live. We're talking about fighting off viruses as well as fighting off the potential pounds of Christmas cookies and other goodies. I'm Dr. Christopher Vogelmann. With me, as always, is Monika Klein, noted nutritionist to the stars.
Hello, everyone. That was a nice intro, and it was just blasting. I had Geek Squad here yesterday playing with
Geek
all
Squad.
my devices, and it was just blasting. So
Pump up the volume. Pump up the volume.
yeah. So I found this delicious persimmon yesterday, and it was ripe and ready for the taking. A little blemished, but hey, that means it's au natural. But this
it's
is
naked?
It's naked. It's naked fruit.
I got 5 of those in
The
the fridge.
way God wanted it.
The way
So-
He wanted us all to be. That's why we weren't born with clothes. Neither
Yeah,
were persimmons.
and neither were dogs and cats, by the way. So this is delicious. It's just I got some other persimmons. You know, there are different types, and I always thought this was the fuyu kind, and fuyu. And the other kinds are a little bit flatter. I actually have some downstairs, but they never seem to ripen like these do. And these are delicious at Christmas. And I usually get some Satsumu oranges. Those are delicious. And apple season. And it's just splendiferous. It's just a bounty of wonderful, festive.
A cornucopia of Christmas crispy fruits. Hey, you know what? So we used to get.
This is not crispy.
It's still a little crispy. I find
juicy. These are juicy. This is juicy
and crisp. I found that the skin was a little.
No, that's what my point is. The other ones are kind of crispy, but this is mushy.
Oh, I don't like mushy. I like crispy.
I like it. I like it that way.
I like extra crispy.
I like it like my apricots need to be a little soft too.
Hey, speaking of soft and stuff, when I was back east, actually, I've become very soft here in terms of my tolerance for temperatures now. I'm starting to adopt my wife's tolerance for temperatures, which is somewhere between 65 and 75 degrees. But back east, when it was 24 degrees or 20 or 10 or -5, we would get all of our persimmons around Christmas time from Israel. But you get them here from California, don't you?
I'm not sure. What does this say? Organic. Hachia. Well, that's what this is. Hachia. I don't know if they're from Mexico or if they're from here, but
interesting. Yeah, but we used to get them from Israel. I would see these pallets of stuff from Israel, produce of Israel for the
maybe closer or something.
It might have been closer. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, or good trade relations, I suppose.
Yeah, speaking of getting closer, people want to get closer to their families this Christmas.
I have a song for you.
You do?
Yes. It's beginning to look a lot like COVID Christmas.
Yes, indeed.
Everywhere I go.
Yeah.
So everyone will be getting Omicron for Christmas this year.
Pretty close. I mean, it's
pretty much guaranteed.
Yeah, it's pretty guaranteed. I mean, it's like, the big O. We used to think it was Oprah or something a little more pleasurable. Yeah. But the big O this year is Omicron. So
Omicron, well, sounds very exotic and everything like that. Well, it's contagious, but not that symptomatic. So not that problematic.
Except for the fact that if it does spread too quickly, hospitalization numbers could still be up overwhelming.
I think one of the concerns is workers getting it and being sick. So there would be a little bit of a problem in that regard. But they're expecting it to peak in about a week.
In the U.S. or because it's
worldwide, or actually this comes from our great resource, John Campbell.
I got his
John
name right this
Campbell,
time. I got
yes.
his name right this time.
So I'm not sure if it's worldwide. I was
No, I think that's a
thinking
UK thing because we're going to be about 3 to 4 weeks behind whatever goes on in the UK. That seems to be our pattern in the United States.
yeah. The deaths aren't that high. That's when they're going to find out the rate of hospitalizations in about a week. So what it is guaranteeing is a massive amount of immunity being developed. So it could very well be the end of the pandemic. It could
I
very
would
well
say,
be. And
I would.
also,
You
may I
got to
add,
strengthen your immune
this?
system,
May
regardless.
I add this
You
to
may
before we
if you insist.
dive into discussion? So Delta is flat and going down, and we're expecting it to be replaced by the less problematic Omicron. So it is replacing Delta in South Africa, which is where it originated.
Yeah,
So
South
that's
Africa, but
good.
in the northern states, the United States, there's a Delta surge right now. So Omicron hasn't reached there yet. Like if you're in Michigan, you're in trouble. If you're in Minnesota, you're in trouble. I mean, certain states, it depends on which state you're in and what the level of vaccination is, what the immune health of people tend to be. In
Well,
particular,
Delta is still a problem. Yes.
Delta's huge. The spike we're currently seeing in the U.S. is Delta. So that's the challenge. So we're not getting the allegedly milder Omicron version yet. So we'll see.
Yeah. So if it's peaking there, it's gonna. I just want to share this good news. The end is nigh. The end of pandemic landville is nigh.
But we do have a statewide mask mandate in California now.
Yeah, we do again. Which, anyway, I don't want to go down that path. But that conversation, because I just, even still, I went to Trader Joe's after the mask mandate. And even in Trader Joe's, what does S stand for? It's
Syracuse or sexy.
Or it's successful
silly. Or silly.
Silly, yeah. Let's opt for silly at this point. So, Trader Joe's, who has been, they have been very, very strong in mask mandates. And this was after the mask mandate. I saw someone at the cashier line not wearing one.
I would have kicked him out.
Yeah. And in fact, I was so, well, it's almost like I don't feel surprised because it's natural not to see people with masks. I mean, I still think, after all these years, we're raised to have people not wear masks. So it's sort of like it takes a few minutes to like, oh, that person isn't wearing a mask. Oh.
I guess I notice immediately because when you're in Mexico, we often go to Tijuana, and when you're in Mexico, everybody's wearing a mask. I remember the first time we went during the pandemic, I was down there and there was only one person I saw out of hundreds of people who was not wearing a mask, and he was smoking a cigarette.
This is my mask.
Oh, that's nice. I got a bunch of them. I got my favorite is my Darth Vader mask.
Not really a mask.
What is it? I can't even see it. Oh, it's a piece of paper?
It's a Christmas card.
Oh, your mask is a Christmas card. Okay.
Yeah, but you thought it was my mask. It was.
I wasn't wearing my reading glasses. Jesus, give me a break.
But this is a Christmas wish, which
baby Jesus.
My Christmas wish is that we won't have to wear masks next year.
Christmas 2022.
2022.
22 and you. So I think the travel thing is interesting too, because I heard an interesting interview about traveling on planes, and the notion, which is pretty high, that the air in an airplane is completely filtered via HEPA filters now every 3 minutes, actually under 3 minutes.
That's good.
That's great. But they still recommended that you not wear just the plain old cloth masks or the disposable masks, the 3 layers. They're actually proposing that when you are in an airplane, it's better to get a genuine N95 mask. And so they're cheap now.
Yeah, but to suffocate. I mean, I would suffocate. I mean,
well, then don't fly anywhere.
I will not fly. Even when I'm at my physical therapist, I sort of have to open my mask a little bit so I could breathe better. I just, for claustrophobic types like myself, Yeah, it's not a happy day.
How would you ever survive an MRI? Because I had to
Oh,
overcome my
I
claustrophobia
have
when I
a
went to MRI.
method. I have a method, an
Hmm.
MRI strategy, my
Hmm.
strategy. It's like definitely everything has to be covered. My entire I cannot see anything. Totally covered ears. And I also have some I use Vicks Vapor Rub so I
Oh
can
my
feel
God.
it when breathing, so it
That's what
opens up my passages.
Mexicans use Vicks Vapor Rub for everything.
Really?
It's just like, yeah, that's one of the biggest things. You're gonna put the menthol on you. It's like, oh, you have this, you need to take the Vicks. You need this, oh, you need to take the Vicks. It's pretty funny. That's one of their favorites. Is that one?
I've never had MRIs until about the last 3 or 4 years, and
Yeah.
I have had a lot recently, and I finally got this strategy down because
Hmm.
no movies, do not play any movies because I tried that one and it just sort of also, I take magnesium, and I
Hmm.
also take something called stress arrest, which I've discussed a lot. I've mentioned it a
Do you
lot.
snore during your MRI?
No, I don't fall asleep,
Oh,
but
okay.
I take the magnesium to relax my muscles. I take the stress arrest to calm me down. And that is my magical formula. So if anyone's like me, who's a little claustrophobic, I mean, I had to take, I took Valium once and that wasn't any good. I think it knocked me out for
You need better Valium.
a day. No, I don't want any.
Oh, I see. Okay.
I don't want anything. Oh no, it was Ativan I took once.
Oh, Ativan.
And
Yeah,
it knocked me out.
Ativan's a weird one. I used to sell when I worked in the pharmaceutical industry. I used to sell against Ativan. Ativan was a short-acting tranquilizer
Yeah,
against the benzodiazepines.
it
Problem with
is a
Ativan,
benzodiazepine.
it's hard to get off of Ativan, harder than it is
Yeah, yeah.
Valium. So
So, yeah, there's Ativan and then the other one,
Transine, no,
no, no.
Valium.
No, I can block
Okay,
it here. It's,
just say no to drugs.
they're both benzodiazepines, and
Yeah.
benzodiazepines can cause all sorts of, I mean, it can make your symptoms worse. It can increase your agitation, increase your, inability to rest and to sleep. So it's just you don't wanna go down that road if you Xanax is the other one.
Xanax is the same as it's a
Yeah.
short-acting one. So the interesting thing is I've actually fallen asleep in MRIs because my strategy is a little different than
Good,
yours, which is
good. What's your strategy?
I just have the ear thing on. But what I do is I go in there with my eyes open and I see how close the damn thing is to me. I close my eyes and imagine that there's more space around me, and it's easy.
Well, I imagine that, but my eyes are totally closed. I imagine like pleasant. I have been a
Birds.
transcendental meditator for a long, long time,
Well, there you
so I
go.
do go into that. What's that?
Yeah, there you go. You can be a transcendental meditator instead of a Valium medicator.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
Transcendental medication during your MRI
medication.
is
All right. Okay.
transcendental medication. That's
So
right.
we've overcome claustrophobia now,
There you go.
and we're the fear of traveling that came about because we were talking about N95s and how it can make you feel claustrophobic, and we've already discussed masks again. So mask on, mask off.
Yes, mask. Yeah,
Danielson, Danielson,
yeah. The Karate Kid.
Karate Kid, the Corona Kid,
The
mask
Karate
on,
Kid.
mask off. All
The
right. So
California Kid.
other things in the holidays, anything else you want to discuss about, or I guess we'll get into some of this because some of our folks who submitted questions are talking
I have
about
a hot off the press question that
what,
was not added
how
to
hot,
the list. It was hot, like this morning it came,
drop it like it's
and,
hot.
I can't well, let's just say it was, Debbie from
Dallas.
Butte, Montana, let's just say.
You want to preserve her identity, protect her identity.
Yeah, so I don't
Okay.
know, but she was having a lot of digestive she actually had it through her childhood, a lot of digestive complaints,
Yeah.
mostly around her stomach and her navel
Yep.
area. And so it has come and gone most of her life, but now it's really sort of come back again. And her doctor did some blood work, and the question was, I mean, I discussed it with her, and I thought, well, maybe it could be a parasite or some sort of organism. And so she sort of tabled that. And now she wants to know, well, I'm a little concerned if it is an organ, a parasite, which is
Hmm.
yucky to me, but is not uncommon. I mean,
Yeah.
most of us have it in our system. So
But
it's
not a tapeworm.
It could be a tapeworm. I don't know.
Okay. Oh
But
my God.
anyway, she said, can you recommend a supplement? I read certain foods help: garlic, turmeric, pumpkin seeds, papaya, cloves, and ginger. And of course, all those would be good. However, what I recommend is to get a stool test. Get your doctor to do a stool test and get that checked to see if there's anything that's revealing. I mean, some of the basic stool tests that your doctor will do will possibly help you detect or see if there's anything like that. If you want to do a more functional medicine test, they will look at it a little bit deeper. And sometimes it's missed on regular stool tests. Sometimes some of these organisms or imbalances, maybe it's a yeast overgrowth or something like that. But yeah, that's what you really need to do. You need to diagnose it, get a diagnosis, and then you can approach, what kind
Because
of
you want to know exactly what critters you might be dealing with.
exactly.
Yeah.
And sometimes you do have to go the medical route, not just the
Mhm.
the natural route.
Well, the au natural. We're getting really into this naked thing today. Um,
Au natural in French does not mean naked.
well, welcome to
French,
America.
I don't know.
God bless the United States. Hey, so it's interesting you mentioned the whole stool thing because my healthcare insurance company actually sent me unsolicited a stool test kit saying, "Hey, we've
How does it
noticed you
do?
haven't done anything." It's so strange. I got this thing in the mail and it's like in foam and it's like very
Is it a
official looking.
colonoscopy?
Yeah, for the colon for colon cancer.
They're pushing mammograms, colonoscopies. I mean, they're pushing it constantly.
I would prefer they push
Constantly.
candy grams, but that's
I
because I
don't
have a
know.
sweet
I
tooth.
don't know. I mean, are you
So,
just like, are you low on cancer diagnoses right now or something like that? And
well, I
you're
mean,
looking and you're
it's
hunting?
this traditional screening thing. You know, the standard American diet or SAD is replete with stories of colon cancer. And I think it's because people
Yeah.
generally live on a low fiber diet. By the way, colon cancer is not very prevalent in Mexico because they eat a lot of beans. And
And maybe they
it's
don't sit
very
around a
interesting.
lot. Maybe they don't sit around a lot.
It's very interesting. Well, yeah, there's I think there's more activity by and large than the average Mexican. You know, if so in Mexico is very different than Mexican Americans in terms of culture and a few other things. But you do notice that there's not a huge amount of obesity in Mexico, compared to the United States. So
Mhm, mhm,
I
mhm.
think maybe food
Yeah.
shortage is more likely. So
I mean, you notice that in most other countries, actually.
and it's true. Yeah, run around France and Italy for a while, and you're saying, "Wow, where are your fat people?" So
I mean, even in Canada, there's
yeah,
less, and
yeah,
that's sort of parallel. There's a cultural parallel there, but
yeah.
it's less. I mean, we've talked about this before. The American portion sizes. We used to
Mhm.
joke about it when I was growing up. You go across the border, and it's like American size plate,
American size, yeah,
American
yeah,
size.
yeah. Super size is an
Bigger,
invention of the Americans.
yes, the bigger the better in every area of life.
Well,
That's the American way.
that's why I stopped eating at gosh, what is it? The Cheesecake Factory because the portions were just too big. You
Well,
know,
here's
even in a salad or something relatively healthy, like a jambalaya or something, which is actually pretty good.
jambalaya is great.
I love jam, but it was so huge. It
Well,
would
this is
be
the
like
thing that
eating two
people
meals at once.
this is the thing that people have to understand, and I've shared this with many of my clients over the years, is like, take half of it home.
Yeah,
Excuse
give
me.
me a box at the beginning of the meal.
I
That's
think
probably
it's
the best
easier
way.
for women than men to just
Yeah.
do that.
Well, I will say what's interesting too is the thing that really bothers me a bit is, and it still bothers me. I've been a waiter in the past, but what bothers me is this whole notion
Me
that
too.
if you split something, they
Yeah,
charge
yeah,
you extra if
mm,
you split an
yeah.
entree, which
That's
I think
that's
is it's blatantly unfair. I think.
and blatantly unhealthy. It
Yeah,
promotes, like
yeah, 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 yeah,
overeating.
yeah.
Yeah, and that's a relatively new thing, probably in the last 15, 20 years.
Hmm.
They didn't do that before. You could happily split a
But
meal.
you're gonna charge me an extra $5 to split the entree? Why? Because you
Yeah,
had to put a plate out?
yeah, exactly. So that's what you do. You tell them you're not going to split it. You just ask for an
Yeah, and
extra.
later, can I get an extra plate?
Mhm.
You just do appetizers. I think that's the key too. I've been to numerous restaurants where I find that I'm doing better in terms of calorie consumption, everything else. I mean, calorie is not a calorie, but they're not all equal. But if I just order a couple of appetizers, I'm usually pretty satisfied as opposed to a grand, giant, supersized entree.
Yeah, and let me just clarify. What I meant, women are able to eat smaller portions than men, because men don't tend to do the doggy bag, because you got to eat like a man, right?
I
There's this
call it a puppy pouch.
Well, you don't probably ask for a puppy pouch, though. I'm sure you wouldn't.
No,
because
actually,
you would be
we
looked
asked
at.
for a couple of boxes. I mean, one of my greatest weaknesses, I think, actually, is or are chicken wings. So an order
Really?
of chicken wings. And so typically I will actually not finish the whole thing and take it back. So I'll just say, I need a box.
I think I've had chicken wings once or twice in my life.
That's because you did grow up in Buffalo, New York, the home,
Yeah,
the
the home
originator of the chicken wing.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
That's
baby.
right.
Hot wings. You put Frank's hot sauce, you put that stuff on everything. So
I bought these things at Trader Joe's the other day, and they were sort of, they look like these kind of dumpling kind of things, Chinese dumpling things with,
like
they
the
usually
little,
have like pork in them or beef
yeah,
or
I used to
whatever.
get them all the time.
And you steam them. There's like steam buns, but this was
Yeah.
Philly. I got home and I realized the inside of it says Philly cheesecake. Now you have two great things in one. I'm like, oh, really? And then I also looked at the sodium. Actually, the sodium wasn't bad.
No,
It wasn't as bad as I expected.
That was my go-to emergency food, a salad and half a package of one of those in my bachelor days.
Oh, in Trader Joe's?
Yeah.
Oh, you know the Trader Joe's ones. Oh, okay. This is my first time buying.
It was my emergency. It was the emergency food. I have no time to cook tonight. Let me get something relatively healthy in my system. So throw together a quick salad and get those. So
I don't usually buy those things, but for some reason I did.
So we could have this conversation.
I know. It was sort of like predetermined. It was
predestined little.
It was totally
dumplings. What were they called though? Goiza.
No, it's not those.
Not the goizas?
These are more puffy steamed buns.
Oh, puffy steamed buns.
That
That would be my rapper name, Puffy Steamed Buns.
No, these are anyway. But you didn't have the Philly cheesesteak though, right?
No, not at all.
So it's not the same thing. This is different.
No, I'm thinking goiza. Goiza was my go-to.
Those are like dumplings.
Yeah.
Not those.
Pork, chicken, those types of things.
Yeah. Anyway, I hope your mouth is watering because we're talking a lot about
food.
Essentially yummy food that
we haven't spoken about legnog, otherwise known as eggnog.
We have not.
With or without alcohol?
Yeah.
I actually prefer without.
Is everyone sort of, I went to Trader Joe's. I hadn't been there for a couple of weeks, and they had no Christmas stuff. None.
They had Lebkuchen last year and the year before, but not. I don't think they have it this year.
I think they have. Well, they have. They had it, I think, but it's all gone. Even Lebkuchen, which is not one of my favorites because it's kind of flavorless.
I love Lebkuchen.
Really,
Lebkuchen is Christmas.
Explain Lebkuchen.
What?
To our audience, to our viewers.
They're little love cakes. Anyway, so but they're great because they're gosh, what's the best way to describe it? So there's sort of like a lot of times there's like a little bit of a rice type bottom to them, and they have different seasonings in them. They're kind of like giant cookies in a way. Some are
giant cookies, but they're kind of hard.
No, some of them are soft. Depends on what you get. So my mom used to get a package. Well, my uncle Hermann in Rickersdorf, outside of Nuremberg, used to send it from the Charles Schmidt. Charles Schmidt had this, and so they came in big tins, and every year was a differently designed tin. And some of these Lebkuchens had different types of frostings on them. Some were chocolate covered. Those are my favorite, and they came in various shapes and sizes. And to me, that flavor means Christmas. Yeah. So that's my.
We all have associations. My mother used to make them. My mother used to make Lebkuchen but
und bunt.
So we'd have Stollen. Stollen is also another, and of course the cashier at Trader Joe's said, don't make sure they pay it, not steal it,
Yeah, don't be stealing the stolen.
But my favorite, if you're gonna have a little, this is a healthy cooking show, right? But it's poppy seed strudel.
That's a good one. I like almond paste is my favorite one.
Oh, marzipan? No. Okay, we do not have the same likes.
We do not.
We do not. Sauerkraut, do you like sauerkraut?
I do.
Okay, we do not have the same.
But I used to hate sauerkraut. So I've become more Eastern in my tastes, like Dresden and those places close to Prague. So as I've aged, I like stuff that I hated as a child. I love olives, for example. As a kid, I couldn't stand them.
Yeah, I don't mind olives now either, but sauerkraut, it was always sour for me, but we always had it
Well, hence the name.
Freshly made in a big barrel, and it was there was a lot of it all the time.
Oh, that's different.
And so we had it all the time, yeah, because my mother made it.
The one I like the best is a raw sauerkraut that Whole Foods has. They carry it, and it's full of probiotics.
Nothing tastes as good as my mother's homemade sauerkraut.
Well, she should send you some. Let's have her send you some for the holidays.
Well, my mother's 100 and she's not making sauerkraut anymore.
Why not?
She's not doing sauerkraut or pierogies or some of the Eastern European things that she's making. Halloumi, which is like cabbage rolls. Oh my God, they were so good.
Hey, with a couple of jalapenos in there would be even better.
No jalapenos, no.
Yes, you need
I didn't grow up with that Mexican influence.
We go back and forth all the time. It's so funny because my wife Maggie is a Mexican food blogger, and so she's really one of the top ones. And so we'll eat something fairly standard, and she'll be pulling out the jalapenos to put them on. And I was like, no.
Yeah, just put them everywhere. So yeah, which reminds me, it's also tamale season.
You betcha, plenty of them.
And so I'm looking forward. I think I might be getting some on the weekend, getting a couple of tamales to like homemade. So I'm looking forward to that.
We did a lot of tamale making a couple of weeks ago before we moved. And that was something else. It was like a giant tamale party in the kitchen, from spreading the masa and the corn husks to the fillings to the wrapping to steaming. Actually, that's the great way to make your own tamales. There's tons of recipes on the Mama Maggie's Kitchen blog. But what's interesting about it is now there's instant pot tamales, and that's you could just make them really fast.
Are they good?
Excellent. Excellent. The only difference is the amount of time that it takes to cook them. So
yeah. So
pretty cool. It's the new pressure cooker. So.
We have a pressure cooker, and my husband used to use the pressure cooker all the time. I was always afraid of the pressure cooker.
Oh, let me tell you, we had two magnificent explosions in our house.
This is my point.
Yeah.
This is my point.
Yeah. There were dents in the ceiling when that thing just exploded, and it happened twice, and it was as if a bomb. As if a bomb had gone off in the house.
Yeah. Was this your pressure cooker or Instant Cooker?
The pressure cooker. No, the Instant Pot's safe as can be. I mean, it's got locks and man, that pressure cooker, when it blew, everybody knew.
My husband was a pro at that, and it was just like a chicken, half an hour done. Boom.
Yeah.
He was just a pro at doing that.
He was a pressure cooker.
He was a very, like, he doesn't cook anymore, but he was gifted at food and cooking, and just like amazing food. He could have written a book about it too. In fact, we were planning to do a book with his recipes, but it may still come about at some point. But should we get on to Q&A?
Yeah, speaking of coming about, let's take a look at Michigan.
Starboard.
So Susie from Ann Arbor, she states that I guess this is at work. She says our break room is always filled with junk, and now with the holidays, it's even worse. Help! What do I do?
More junk.
Avoid it altogether, or ...
Bring these to the workplace.
Bring persimmons?
This is the first time that I've sort of had a break room kind of scenario in my home, because I have a lot of staff.
Oh, you do have a break room. You got a at-home hospital.
Yeah, and so you can change the terrain of your break room, and start bringing fruits and vegetables and nuts and things like that, and or encourage others to bring that. I know it's a little often impossible, but you could start doing that kind of thing, or encouraging others to do that kind of thing. But I mean, it's tough. Do you walk away? Do you not go into that room?
Personally, I would avoid it entirely because I would be too tempted. So.
Yeah, and I've had a lot of teachers in years past always face that, and it's not just at Christmas. Of course, it's worse at Christmas, but yeah. So they I just say walk away, bring your own lunch. Try to avoid it, because if you're vulnerable, you're going to be tired, probably taking a break, and your defenses are quite low.
And if you're not mindfully eating, you're mindfully eaten. That would be if you're the meal for a cannibal. That's a whole
mindfully eaten, yeah.
But if you're mindfully eating, it's very different than getting caught up in the emotions and the conversation, where you're just sort of eating without any recognition about what's going in your mouth.
Yeah, I remember in years past also working in doctors' offices, and there would be many patients, and suppliers and pharmaceutical companies would send all the stuff all the time, constantly, and you're in the middle of your patient consultations, and even we healthy people are vulnerable. So
keep me away from the caramel corn.
Caramel. Oh yeah,
caramelized popcorn. It's like
caramel corn. You always have that trifecta, right?
The trifecta. My sister, almost every year, with the exception of last year, would send the trifecta here. So it was interesting to see who ate what, though. The cheese one went more with my wife. I think my stepson and I fought over the caramel corn, and then the plain one was always left over. But we still ate
kettle corn. No kettle corn.
Oh, the kettle corn was in there. I mean, it's caramelized, so yeah.
I see.
Similarly.
So it's not like caramel, the dark caramel popcorn.
Yeah, no. Well, I mean, it's kettle corn caramelized. It's caramelized sugar.
Kettle corn.
Kettle.
I think there's two very distinct kinds of popcorns for those popcorn connoisseurs out there. I'm sure you would agree. There's caramel and there's kettle.
What's the difference?
Oh, well, kettle. I was never exposed to kettle corn, except I think I had my first kettle corn maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and it's like more sugary. It's like sugary, whereas the caramel actually has a caramel flavor, and it's darker.
God, they look remarkably similar to me. So
yeah, no, the kettle corn looks like normal popcorn, like regular popcorn, that lightness. So anyway.
They must have sent they definitely. This one must have had the darker one, because it's always darker when we got it. But we've been spared that during last year. Yes,
because of COVID.
Yeah, COVID corn. We never got the package. I don't know if Michelle, if you're watching right now, my sister, please send popcorn.
Before we got on air just now, I got a package from my sister, and they were all, I know it's not popcorn because they're
sauerkraut.
They're all little tiny packages, So I don't think it's food, but she did send me foie gras one time. And do
you think it's medicine instead of food?
No, it could be food related, or it could be all sorts of things. But yeah, I don't want any foie gras because it's cruel. It's cruel.
Well,
anyway,
eating meat.
I hope that answers your question about the, and
was there a question?
Susie, this too will pass. It'll be January 1st in no time.
It'll be January 1st by the time we're through all these questions.
Oh yeah. We're going to have to get through them, because we're not going to be on the air for the next 2 weeks.
What?
Yes, because every Christmas Eve is on Friday, New Year's Eve is on Friday, and we want to take a break, and we want you to take a break and enjoy your time.
There is no rest for the wicked.
Holidays. What's our next question, Christopher?
Well, next one's Robert from Denver.
Yes,
Robert allegedly says that he's healthy. has a good weight, no symptoms, and his consistent glucose is at 85. I doubt that, Robert. I think you probably, after you eat a meal, it's probably higher or lower.
Yeah, that's true.
He's looking at his A1Cs. He says 6.0 to 5.6. I mean, I always hear it reported as with the lower number first, 5.6 to 6.0. That's why I was a little confused when I saw Roberts. I thought maybe he made a typo and it was supposed to be a 4 to 5.6. He says there's diabetes in the family history, and the doctor told me that I'm diabetic. Is there some
Diabetic or pre-diabetic?
damage?
Pre-diabetic?
He says my doctor told me that I am diabetic.
Oh, I think it was pre-diabetic. What I read. Yeah.
Well, the transcriptionist should be fired.
So go ahead with the question.
Is there some body damage is starting for these numbers? Okay, I'm assuming that Robert is asking, is there some bodily damage that's already begun when I have these kinds of numbers? Is this pre-diabetes reversible, and how? Diet, exercise, etc. All right, so Robert, we do apologize to you because I think our transcriptionist probably was dipping into the eggnog. So, but I think we got the gist of your question.
Yeah. So, I mean, in a lab, you would see the number, the lower number and the higher number, but it sounds like your range is, between 5.6 and 6.
Right.
So that's an A1C. Now, an A1C is a really great marker of how you're doing, how your blood sugar is overall in like a 3-month period versus just having your blood glucose checked every day. So it gives us a better range, a better idea of the cycles of your blood sugar, what's going on with your blood sugar. So, yeah, I mean, you definitely want to be under 6. The lower the better, like 5.5 to 5.0 would be good. And yes, it is reversible. Pre-diabetic state is definitely reversible with a diet and exercise. We don't know what you're eating. You say you're healthy. Again, that's such a vague. People have different ways of thinking they're healthy.
If they're not in the ER, they think they're healthy.
Yeah, I used to hear this commonly. I'm healthy. I don't eat meat or something like that.
I have an entire plate of brownies every night.
Yeah, exactly. Or I'm a vegan and I only eat vegan cookies and la la la.
Vegan candy and
candy.
Vegan ice cream. Vegan. Yeah.
Healthy is very. It's a very loosey-goosey term.
Hey, speaking of goose, no, that was the pate thing. No, we're not going to talk about that right now.
No, we're not talking about pate. But
it's in my head now.
So, yeah, I mean, if you could have sent a little more detail about like what I often like to hear is like a day in a life. What do you do? When do you wake up? What do you have when you wake up? Breakfast, all your meals. What are you drinking or eating in between those meals?
Shot of Jack Daniels.
What's your stress level? What time are you getting to sleep? How much are you sleeping? How, just basics like that. That's what I would like to know, because I'd like to know sort of a basic day in a life and then we can analyze like what you think is healthy eating. And maybe when you say you're healthy, maybe it doesn't really mean that you're a healthy eater, but you just feel good. And sometimes there's, you might be in denial. You might not be paying attention to your body, paying attention to any symptoms or signals that your body's getting. So that's something that really is part of the work that I usually do with my clients, is we learn and we check in and you get to learn who you are, what makes you tick, what you need and what you're eating and what will make you feel better. Because a lot of people don't even know what feeling good feels like, what healthy feels like. You've just been going through the motions for years and years and years, and that you think that's feeling good.
Well,
We're
and
feeling
you might be symptom free, but still have low
yeah.
energy or less strength, or you don't sleep as well as you're used to. It doesn't mean that you're healthy. It just means that you don't have overt disease or disease symptoms. So
Yeah, and some people think, if I don't have a disease, I must be healthy, and
yeah,
that's really not so. You know, you want to pay attention to symptoms and check in and like, I do this survey often especially when I have a person on a program or a detox program where we do a weekly check-in and we start looking, like we look at the symptoms so you can start knowing what to look for, what symptoms, you know, anything and everything can be a symptom or a change. And so we start assessing on a weekly basis, and then you notice these numbers change and they go down, and all of a sudden you have a 90, we call them metabolic screening questionnaires. I'm sure you used to do those too with your.
MSQs, baby, for
Yeah,
the win.
those are so great, and it looks at every system in your body, and they're pretty simple to answer, and it's a wonderful way of seeing where you were and how far you've come in the process of cleaning up your act, so to speak.
One of the things that really was interesting to me, having practiced on like 13,000 plus patients over the course of 30 some years, is that people forget what their starting point was. Because they've been
Exactly.
in excruciating pain, and I've got these, wounds, and I've got this and that, and I can't do this, and I can't even get out of bed without pain and everything. And you have to go back and go back to the baseline where they started to remind them how much better they really are. Because sometimes they'll have like a niggling pain or an ache or something, which is nothing like what they used to have, pain shooting down the legs or this or that. And I
Mhm.
imagine it's the same thing when somebody's trying to adapt to what you refer to as the skinny jeans lifestyle. They forget that they were 40 pounds overweight or something. And now, they're really worried because they picked up 5 pounds.
Yeah, and it's not just physically, it's also your mood. It's
Yeah.
also, your sleep. It's also, are you agitated more? Are you agitated less now? Do things trigger you? Are you angry? Do you have angry outbursts? I mean, these are all pretty much clues that something's out of balance.
I had some very cranky, mean patients who would start out with me, and then they turned out, once they were out of pain, they were just very pleasant and quite loving and compassionate.
And
So
they
it
were
was really
bringing all those cookies to your break room and at Christmas. Is
we
that what
did
they
have a break room. We had a lot of cookies. I think it really what the challenge was, my office manager was an amazing baker. And
Mm,
so she was the one who was bringing stuff. Fortunately, she would share them with people in
yeah.
the reception area, and so I didn't get to eat too many. So
Good, good. Yeah, that's good. So spread the goodness or the
spread the
sweet.
goodness, spread the sugar.
Spread the sugar everywhere. Support your local dentists.
Sprinkle that sugar.
Yeah, fairy dust.
So Robert, hopefully those are helpful things. If you can provide Monica with greater details, I bet she can provide you with greater feedback.
Yeah.
And that would be, you can reach her at Monica with a K at coachingforhealth.com.
But
So
yeah, I
yeah.
mean, your A1C is not your destiny, so you can change it.
Oh, it
A1C is
rhymes.
not your
Your A1
destiny. I sound like Christopher
your
Vogelman.
A1C is not your destiny. Be healthy, Luke. Speaking of healthy people from this side of the country, Anne Marie from Ashland, Oregon.
Man,
Oregon. Oregon. I think they say
Oregon,
Oregon. Oregon.
Oregon,
Like a gun. There's a lot
like
of guns in Oregon.
Oregon.
Oregon. She says, I'm taking so many supplements.
Mm.
Many people have put me on various things over the years, but I'm wondering, am I taking too much? Am I taking the wrong things? Have my body and life changed? I don't need some of these anymore? What do you suggest I do? I'm just reading, Anne Marie. Sorry, I understand that. I think I got the gist of it. You've taken a lot of supplements. People keep adding them. Are you taking the right ones? And are there things you can exclude? Okay, I got it.
I used to do this yearly or twice a year supplement review,
Hmm.
and we'd like look at all the supplements and say, okay, you were using these particular things for this particular reason. These
Hmm.
are, we were doing therapeutic nutrition using
Hmm.
supplements.
Hmm.
So you no longer, and here's another example of the metabolic screening questionnaire where you don't have those symptoms anymore. So we take those things out. A lot of people don't know what they're taking and why they're taking it. I mean, there's the basics. You've got your vitamin C. That's always a good thing to do. Vitamin D, get your vitamin D levels checked and make sure you need that. Sometimes you don't need a multiple. Sometimes you just you have these other things, the vitamin C, the vitamin D, possibly, calcium, magnesium, probiotic. What else? Magnesium is always good.
Did you say zinc or no?
Zinc is, not necessarily something you need all the time either.
Well, it's a good supplement for males in particular as they age. One of the patients I had years ago, she was impressed. Actually, the urologist was impressed when the husband showed up and had in his late 70s a perfectly normal prostate, and that's because she'd been giving her husband for 25 years one little zinc tablet every day.
Yeah, I mean, there can be a little bit of an imbalance sometimes if you take too much zinc. So you want to make sure that you're not, that you need it. So yes, for men, zinc, palmetto, saw palmetto, and all sorts of other prostate enhancing or prostate strengthening supplements are good. Fish oil, always a good thing to have in your arsenal as well. So those are kind of the basics, the ones that I just described: the vitamin C, the fish oil, possibly the probiotics. But it depends on what you need. It depends, like the other part of it depends on what you need. Are you having digestive problems? Are you taking a digestive enzyme? Do you need that? Is that an effective one? Sometimes it's you might need that particular one, but or that particular supplement, but the one that you're taking might not be working very effectively. So it's really important to, work with someone who knows how supplements work, like therapeutic supplementation works. Your doctor may not necessarily know that because they're not trained in supplementation. So that's why it's great to be working with a doctor who's also, has someone on staff or a referral or working. I often have clients and I'm collaborating with their physicians. So that's a good thing to do.
Speaking of interesting physicians, I watched this YouTube video actually with our favorite friend, John Campbell, but with the guy, the doctor, family practitioner from Israel. And it's a fascinating interview. I wish all of you could listen to this, because this is a gentleman who would have poo-pooed the whole idea of using zinc, especially vitamin D and vitamin K, to help to reduce the symptoms and to get people better if they do have a COVID infection, or if they to actually help them to actually prevent hospitalization and other things like that. And it's quite fascinating, because you're talking much higher doses of vitamin D3 than we would have originally thought. And the vitamin K, of course, just to prevent calcium from accumulating in the bloodstream. But it's fascinating how you listen to a physician who would regard it as, any sort of supplementation as just not as good as scientific medicine. But then he turns around now and he says that this is a great way, if you get everybody on sufficient amounts of vitamin D and a certain amount of zinc when they do feel symptoms, for example, that you could cut down on healthcare costs all across the globe.
Well, I mean, that's what we've been talking about for years and years. I mean, that's how you and I met. I mean, this is so much.
We met over a bottle of vitamin D.
It's preventative,
Yeah, it's preventative.
This is what we do, supplementation. If I'm not feeling, like a couple of times in the last few weeks, I wasn't feeling good, like I was feeling like a cold was coming on, got the zinc out, got my garlic out, got my vitamin C out, got my my oregano oil out, took those because that's sort of like what I'm taking, and maybe a couple of other things if I feel the need. However, a lot of people don't know what to take. So I think it's really good.
So tell them what to take.
I think it's really good to work with someone because everyone's unique and everyone's different. I mean, these I'm rattling off all these things, and those are sort of basic things for most people would benefit from.
By the way, you don't necessarily need to have your blood levels taken of vitamin D in order to do some preventative or supportive supplementation for your immune system, because the toxicity really isn't there until you start going into the maybe 30,000, 20,000 type units or so.
Well, it does
It's
have a hormonal effect. It does
right,
act
and
like
it
a
will
hormone.
it will have an effect on 1,200 different genes in the human genome, which is really interesting. Turning some
Mhm.
on, turning some off, which is
That's like
really
everything.
it's quite fascinating. I mean, sure, a small amount of vitamin D will prevent the 19th century deficiency, the rickets disease, but
Mhm,
that
mhm.
teeny tiny amount, the RDA, is a ridiculously deficient amount, and
Yeah.
yeah,
So we don't go with RDA, but I mean,
no.
again, there's places where you're getting more sunshine, in the world, you're getting a little more sunshine. So you
Well,
can go
it was interesting because this Dr. Michael Cohen, he says, I swim 1 meter, no, not 1 meter,
Mhm.
1 kilometer every single day, almost throughout the entire year outdoors in the sun. He says, and my vitamin D levels were still deficient relative to where they should be, in the 30 micrograms per milliliter or so. And
Mhm.
that was very interesting. And so, can you imagine if you're a dark skinned person living in Sweden, you definitely need to be doing some supplementation, because fortunately or unfortunately, Caucasian, lighter skinned people are the ones who produce more vitamin D through their skin. But what's interesting, as we age, that also goes down. And so in
Mhm.
an elderly population, supplementation is most often necessary just for good support.
Yeah, I know. He's been talking about vitamin D for in many of his broadcasts and many of his YouTube uh, productions, I guess we'll call them YouTube videos. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely something that you need to, because we were talking. I mean, this is all about immune health today too. We were going to really focus on immune health because during the Christmas season, you're eating a lot of sugar. You're eating a lot of it's stressful, and sugar competes
Depress your
with
health.
vitamin
Yeah.
C, and so your immune system is automatically depleted, or not automatically, but it becomes
Plus some of the emotional stress that you
yeah,
feel during the
exactly,
holidays. Yeah.
exactly. So we definitely want some added immune supportive supplements for sure. So
Support them up. Hey,
yeah,
I feel like we're at the therapy level where 50 minutes is like, your time is up now. I have to move to my next
we're
patient.
giving you our bonus
But
session because we won't be
we're
working.
into overtime. So Anne Marie, hopefully that's a good thing that you look at. I mean, I did work in a large multidisciplinary clinic with 24 different providers. I mean, I was with 4 female gynecologists. That's a long story for a future time. But there were people who would come in and to the internal medicine doctors, and they would take them off of all supplements and then gradually
Yeah,
introduce things. You get that baseline functional medicine
yeah.
that Monica was talking about. So Tim from Nolans,
And
he says, I have some severe colon issues. Sorry, Mark, I just get into that. Mostly constipation. Should I take Miralax, or is there something better, something more natural? I happen to be due to a colonoscopy. Are you like, Mark? Tim? Are you cramming for an exam, so to speak? I mean,
yeah, well, it would be an exam, wouldn't it be? Yeah,
he's cramming for his exam. I mean, you can't
coming for an exam
go
and
for beans. Make sure you get
go
those
and
beans.
do the beans. The beans are good. The
Better
beans
beans
are
are
good.
better than Miralax, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
I'm not a big fan of Miralax. I know
No.
it's prescribed and recommended all the time. I'm not a big fan. There's so many other great things.
It's like the brand name has miracle laxative written into it. I mean, that's the promise there, implied
They
promise.
don't have Miralax in Canada. They have something da 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 lax. I mean, it's always lax.
Relax.
Lax.
Lackadaisical.
They have something at Costco which is not Miralax, but it's something lax.
Lax.
I
Lax.
mean, it's something that's
Well,
lacking
LAX
with
is
fiber.
the main airport in Los Angeles. LAX.
It is. It is.
Yeah,
And it
that's the
doesn't
code.
lack. Well, what you're lacking is fiber, probably.
Fiber.
You
So
want to,
travel to a place that has lots of fiber.
yeah, which could be everywhere and
Yeah.
anywhere. So just go to your local grocery store and buy fruits and vegetables and some good grains, and start or add, laxative, or a fiber supplement to your daily regimen. That would help. Magnesium can help, but it's only temporary for, issues like
You need a
constipation.
lifestyle shift here, Tim.
Yeah, what are you eating? Are you eating a lot of dense foods, like meats and nuts and mostly those kinds of things will cause some constipation. But it's chronic. I mean, the constipation is a chronic condition in our culture because we're not exercising enough, not drinking enough water, not eating a balanced diet, and not enough fiber. So,
but as I said before, you don't see a lot of colon cancer in Mexico. The other reason I thought was very interesting, Mexicans in general don't eat as much meat as Americans. Meat is sort of regarded as a special occasion thing. Maybe you get it once or twice a week. You don't get it 3 times a day.
Yeah. So I just really, and you are not alone, Tim. I hear this a lot. I mean, that's why Miralax and all these kinds of laxatives,
X-Lax.
So high, like the sales of these items is phenomenal.
Oh,
yeah, because of these things, exercise, water.
It's a constipation nation.
Constipation nation, you got it. So Tim, we feel for you. Try and take some steps, some of the steps that we just said: exercise, more water, get your fiber in, decrease your meat consumption.
Yeah, I mean, there's you just get away from the congestive foods and get your system moving. Even having the right oils in your diet can actually help. So.
Yeah, essential fatty acids, get some fish oil as a supplement. That would be good.
We have one last question here. We are going to get to this, because we won't be able to reach them again until 2022. So Elaine from Baltimore. I bet Elaine says, "Hun." Everybody in Baltimore I met used to say, "Hun." Yeah. How you doing, hon? Anyway, so Elaine, she says, Elaine is like, wow, she's enthusiastic about this one. She's an exclamation point. Sweets, sweets, sweets everywhere. I hope I gave it the right inflection there, Elaine.
Yeah.
I try to feel good, but I think it's the holidays. I'll be good in January.
Yeah.
Am I delusional? I mean, every January I start off with great resolve, hence her resolution, but come February, it's all over. Can you give me a solid and sane strategy? I mean, solid. I'm thinking it's not constipation.
Is she Italian or
Elaine? I can't tell if Elaine is Italian or not because she didn't leave her last name. So we're preserving her anonymity. I mean, it could be Elaine, the character from Seinfeld, for all I know.
It could be Elaine. Well, Elaine,
did she move from New York to Baltimore? I have so many questions.
Did you move?
So many questions.
So many questions. Well, sweets. Yes, you do. Yes, you have that issue. So again, sweets.
Hey, from Dr. Sweet Tooth over here, you got to start now. You can't wait till January. So
yeah, you have to sort of like temper that. I mean, it's hard, but don't buy it. Do not go to places where they have it.
Temper it, but don't throw a temper tantrum.
And here's another thing. Try and eat good food and have a little bit of the sweet. So if you want to have a little bit of the sweet. So if you're relying totally on sweets, if you're waking up and eating sweets, you've got a problem. And so the more nutritious, the more you can stick to your healthy diet, healthy eating, have a good solid breakfast with some protein and some, good carbohydrate.
Complex carbohydrates, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, a good example. I mean, even something simple like a wonderful piece of toast with some almond butter. I mean, that should be satisfying, or some eggs, some poached eggs with some spinach and
almond butter spread on the poached eggs. No, I don't do that.
That would be an interesting flavor.
we're experimenting in Mom and Maggie's kitchen. So.
Yeah. So you know what I mean. My husband could have tried something like that. He used to put almond butter in his yogurt. So I thought that was kind of odd.
Odd man butter.
He was brilliant. He was a brilliant chef.
You never know. Think of like, well, of course they're legumes, but peanut sauce, in Thai food. I would imagine that you get something similar with almonds. It'd be interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I think he used peanuts also in those kinds of things, those kind of concoctions. But if you could sort of eat really well, and then you'll
Eat
probably
well before you go somewhere where they're going to serve you a lot of sweets. I think
yeah.
that's the best advice from Monica I've ever heard, which is like fill up on food before you go to a party.
Yeah, fill up,
Fill her up.
and eat more of this stuff because this will satisfy your sweet tooth to some extent.
It'll satisfy you.
Fruit, wonderful fruit, seasonal fruit, and nuts too. But nuts can be constipating as well. But nuts are great and satisfying.
But they do have fiber, though. I mean,
they do have fiber, and I do have my bag of nuts here again.
Bag of nuts.
My brother-in-law.
Wait, where'd you go?
May he rest in peace. One of his favorite sayings was, "I bought 2 bags of nuts yesterday."
Yes.
And these are walnuts. His favorite saying was, "They're Christmas." What do you say? You can't have Christmas without walnuts.
I thought you can't have Christmas without nuts, and that's probably when your family gets together. So.
No, this is like there would not be Christmas without walnuts, and he used to get big, huge bags every year under the tree, and walnuts were his favorite. Brain food, because they're shaped like brains. Walnuts. And it's so fun to crack these and sort of like, because it slows you down. You're not like constantly, putting your hand in the bowl.
I like them to be already shelled.
This is fun to do this and it slows you down and you eat less of them. And it's very satisfying and it's very meditative, actually.
Do you have a good German nutcracker where you just kind of crank his jaw?
I do not have one of those, but I do have a nutcracker and all the tools.
You have the nutcracker. Sweet.
So, yeah, these are alternatives and options. And
I mean, your strategy, your solid and sane strategy is to eat healthfully on a regular basis. Make these changes now. Tiny habits, just make a few small changes and just do them every single day. And don't wait for your New Year's resolution, which is your resolve will disappear in February.
New Year's dissolution.
New Year's delusion is probably what.
Yeah, because I mean, it's like, it never works.
I think it's good to just have some goals and targets. And I don't really, I gave up decades ago on New Year's resolutions because I just found them to be, usually you're going to say something like, so vague, like I'm going to get more exercise this year, or I'm going to lose weight this year. But you make something specific and measurable, like I'm going to take 1 inch off my dress size by April.
However,
doing the following things, eating these healthy things, exercising, doing this and this and this. But goals really need to be specific and measurable. And a New Year's resolution is just so broad and general that most people never attain it.
However, there's a trap here. You may get into that dress size by April, but by December, you may have gone back to the other dress size that you started off with. So
I'm going to throw out all my fat clothes.
What's interesting, if you are going to do some goals for the year, and like now is a good time, review the goals you might have made for last year. And even if there's 10 goals and you only reached one of them, you only were successful at one, like applaud yourself. It's not easy. So just really, really honor, and this is a great time to review the whole year, see what you've learned, see what you've accomplished, see what you've, learned. And we usually learn the most by our challenges. And I know for many people, it's been a challenging year. And so just honor what you've accomplished in every way. It doesn't have to be success, fireworks and everything. It could be just some real learning and some real wisdom gained over the course of the last 12 months. So with that,
Elaine, I have one more thing. Start a journal, not necessarily a food journal, just a general journal where you can go through things on a daily basis, and that'll be a lot easier for you to track everything from your health, your mental outlook, your finances, and other things, and ask yourself questions on a daily basis. Answer honestly, and just remember, nobody's going to see this journal but you.
I am a big fan of journals. I have boxes of journals that I've written over the years, and they are my it's like my solace. It's like where I go to explore my thoughts and my life. And, you know, a lot of people don't, you know, resonate with that, but
It's
you
one of
know,
the keys. It's one of the keys to living a successful, happy life with greater peace of mind, because you really, you can, if you write stuff down, it's so much easier for you to track than just these amorphous thoughts where they're fleeting. So,
and it increases awareness too.
yeah,
So,
and that's what you need.
yeah,
Know thyself was
know
Socrates.
myself.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So know yourself and get yourself over here in January of 2022 for another episode of Total Health Live, but it won't be as long as this one. Episode 87 was
Just special holiday special.
the holiday special. Holla for that holla. All right.
Yeah.
See?
And have a wonderful holiday season. You know, happy holidays. See you in the new year. I think it's January 7th we'll be back.
Oh shoot, we may be having a celebration then. We shall see.
We'll have a celebration.
Rosca de Res, the Mexican celebration of the arrival of the Three Kings.
Well,
Oh
that'll
well,
be great. That'll
we'll
be
see what
great.
happens.
We'll have to celebrate.
Okay.
Enjoy yourself.